Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Philosophy of Science, and this is my channel where I take a look at things concerning scientific method, different kind of things that people it would be good to know about scientific method. And last time I started series on flat earthers' misunderstandings about scientific method, and I started going through Sleeping Warrior's content because I think he's the prominent like a scientific method expert in the flat earth community at the moment. And I started commenting on this video how the independent variable literally destroys the ball, apply scientific method. I took a look at three first citations, and I was going to just take a look at one citation in this video and then go to the philosophical paper that Sleeping Warrior is also commenting in this video. But well, I think that the philosophical paper needs its own video, and Sleeping Warrior claimed that I was cherry picking when I was just going to take a look at the first four citations. So I decided to make two separate videos. In this video, I'm just going to take a look at the rest of citations in this video. So this is going to be pretty much the same thing as the last video, just with different citations. So if you are not interested in that, please go and take a look at my other video where I comment on the philosophical paper that Sleeping Warrior is reading and misunderstanding. I think it's going to be a more hilarious video, but yeah, okay, and on to the video. One thing, in a previous video, Sleeping Warrior was claiming, and in this video Sleeping Warrior is claiming that to experiment count as scientific, you must manipulate the independent variable. And in my last video I made a case that there is at least two kinds of experiments. There are what is called true experiment. This is what Sleeping Warrior is talking about. This is an experiment where you actually manipulate the independent variable and then you measure the dependent variable. But in addition to this, there is also this thing called quasi-experiment, where you do not manipulate the independent variable. What scientists do is they, for example, take people with pre-existing traits, for like gender. I used gender in last video as an example, and then they just put people with different genders in different groups, and then they measure differences between these groups. So there is no actual manipulation involved, and this is also a scientific experiment. That was the thing that I was the case that I was making in my last video, and this shows that Sleeping Warrior is totally incorrect, claiming that there must be a manipulation. But this is the more of the same thing. There is going to be a one more definition about independent variable, or the definition of independent variable, that I did not discuss the last time, and it's going to be right here. Okay, but let's first look at the citation. This is from the website thoughtco.com, and this was one of those this is one of the citations that I was able to find, and it's here. It's a bit different now. This is just a problem with these online citations. They may be non-existent, or then they might be different. So, but this is ThoughtCo independent and dependent variable difference. This is basically exactly the same. It just looks different. Independent and dependent variable difference. Yeah, it looks different, but it is like exactly the same, and it's also exactly the same text. An independent variable is the variable that is changed or controlled in a scientific experiment to test the effect on dependent variable. and it's exactly the same that it says here. Yeah, it would look like that this is one of the citations that would be good for Sleeping Warriors case, that you must control or manipulate the variable. But see here, if we go down, here is our sources, and these are actually done correctly. So you're able to take a look at the sources that this web page used, and I tried to track down all of these. The first one I was able to get my hands on, it's basically just mathematics, statistics. So this is not it's not relevant if we are trying to define the independent variable. This the second one, this I wasn't able to find or get my hands on. Yeah, I was able to find it, but I can't get my hands on it, so I don't know what it says. But here, this I was able to find. So this is basically what this web page is getting its information on, and yeah, it's here. It's okay. Well, it's here. Cambridge Dictionary of Statistics. Yeah. So this is from that book, and here it is. There is the definition of the word independent variable. It's explanatory variable. The variables appearing on the right hand side of the equation defining, for example, multiple regression or logistic regression, and which seeks to predict or explain the response variable, also commonly known as the independent variables. So this is exactly the same thing. It's just it says here, although this is not to be recommended since they are rarely independent of one another. So here is an explanation why it's not recommended to call it independent variable, but people obviously do call it independent variable. But it's exactly the same thing as this citation says, and no mention of manipulation, because see here. These scientific terms, they don't have just one exact definition. In different contexts, these same terms can be defined differently. This is a statistical definition of independent variable with no mention of experiment or anything like that. And this is also scientific definition of the word independent variable. Okay, and here I have a web page that is trying to explain what multiple regression is. It says that multiple regression formula is used in the analysis of relationships between dependent and multiple independent variables, and formula is represented by equation y is equal to a plus bx1 plus cx2 plus dx3 plus e, where y is dependent variable and x1, x2, x3 are independent variables. Yeah, and it's here it is written as a mathematical equation. So here you can see an x1, x2 and x3 are independent variables. So this is another way to define independent variable with no mention of Okay, and here is the next citation, citation 5, and let's look at it. I'm not going to play these because it's going to take a while for the voice to read this, so I don't think we're going to play. Yeah, and this was actually one of the citation I wasn't able to find. It seems that this page doesn't exist anymore, and I couldn't find it from any other page either. From University of Northern Carolina at Pembroke websites, I did try to find it, so I'm able to just comment on what I see on this screen. But I would like to point out that it says that in an experiment, an independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher. And as I showed in my last video, varied doesn't mean manipulated, and that's why probably there is varied or manipulated, because by forming your categories with pre-existing traits like gender, for example, different genders in different groups, you can vary the independent variable even though you're not manipulating it. So this is actually contrary to what Sleeping Warrior is claiming, because it permits just varying the independent variable. Let's go to the next. Okay, this I was able to find. Yeah, I'm not going to play it either now, but yeah, we can. It's from this kind of website. This is some kind of resources for teachers, K-12 teachers. So okay, so I was able to find this document, and it's here. And what it says about the manipulation, it says that independent variable is also controlled by you. In other words, you can manipulate the independent variable during the experiment to discover what effect it has on other variables. Okay, this seems to state that it must be manipulated, but what we have to note here is that this is for like very more small children. This is not like, this is for I don't know what age, maybe 10, 12 years old, something like that. I would guess, just by looking at what this document looks like. And the thing about teaching children is that you are not. I have a degree in education, and one thing they explained to us when I was studying, that children are not able to understand complicated, abstract subjects. So you have to start teaching them from like little things that are close to their own knowledge base and close to their experience. So that's why I would say that this resource probably is defining the independent variable in this way, because if you would make it more complicated, that say that okay, sometimes you can vary it, sometimes you can just form the different groups by using pre-existing traits. Yeah, I think that would be too hard for children to understand, and also, as we can see from Sleeping Warrior, for adults also to understand. So that's why this is probably using one clear definition for the independent variable, and not trying to actually give a scientifically correct definition of this term, because it would be quite complicated, as we have seen, and not just so clear cut as Sleeping Warrior would like us to think. So that's my only comment about this. Yeah, it seems to show the same thing that Sleeping Warrior is claiming, but it's for children. here is the next. This I wasn't able to find also. I can show here. Here is the only reference for this page I could find, and you can, if I copy it and paste it here, yeah, web page doesn't exist. So yeah, I can just look at what I can see here and comment on it, and it says independent variable. The variable is deliberately changed by experimenter. So this would seem to say the same thing as Sleeping Warriors, saying that it must be manipulated. But yeah, this might be this actually most likely is because this is just trying to give basic understanding to 11 to 19-year-olds what these terms mean. So I'm not going to use more time on that. Yeah, and here is the next one, next citation.
Changed.
This is
From the
citation 8. I just show you here, and I'm not going to play it either. And it's from libguides.usc.edu, and this I was able to find. It's again looks different. It's libguides usc.edu. So it's basically the same website, and it's basically says it says exactly the same thing. It says that the independent variable, the variable that is stable and unaffected by other variables you are trying to measure, it refers to the condition of experiment that is systematically manipulated by the investigator. It is the presumed cause. Okay, so this also says that it is systematically manipulated, so it would seem that this is claiming that it must be manipulated. But the interesting thing about this is that here are the citations where this knowledge should be from, and I was able to find all of these, and I don't there is no mention of manipulation in any of these. I can show you. I'm going to start from this instruction review guidebook introduction. It's here, and yeah, I'm not going to go through all of it, but this doesn't have any mention of independent variable. This is more like research ethics, I think, or something like that, and laws and things like that you should pay attention to when doing research. So I don't know why it is listed here, and it's not even that long. It's just this web page, Institution Review Guidebook Introduction. It's the same thing as here. So yeah, I don't know why it's listed here. This is actually yeah, I was able to get my hands on it because I have university credentials. If you don't, you probably can't see. It's here. You can't see the whole thing. I think you can see the first line, but you can't see the second if you don't have university credential. But it says here, independent variable. Here, independent variable. It's up here, and the definition is down here. And it just says a variable thought to influence or affect other variables. This other variable is sometimes referred to as dependent variable, as its value are thought to depend on the corresponding value of the independent variable. So here there is no mention of manipulation, and then we have this last one, and you can access it just by pressing this thing here, and I have it also. I already pressed it, and it's here. And what it says, what is independent variable here, and it says an independent variable is exactly what it sounds like. It is a variable that stands alone and isn't changed by other variables you are trying to measure. For example, someone's age might be an independent variable. And from this we can already obviously see that this definition of independent variable cannot include the thought that you must manipulate it, because how you are going to manipulate someone's age? Well, okay, we are physicists say that we could be able to manipulate time in like some ways, but it's actually practically it's impossible to manipulate someone's age. So this definition obviously includes quasi-experiments. So yeah, I really don't understand how these terms can be defined like this from these sources, because none of those sources define independent variable in this way. But yeah, that was interesting. And then there's these last two. I'm just going to show them to you. Yeah, and this says independent variable. These are felt to cause some change in the dependent variable. They are manipulated by the researcher. Yeah, it says that they are manipulated. And the last one, independent variable. The variable that the scientist changes during the experiment is independent variable. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to go into this because, yeah, I lost interest. But yeah, I just showed them that they also say that you must manipulate the variable, but as I have shown using Sleeping Warrior own citations, this is not actually the only way to define independent variable. This is the way that it is defined, yeah, through some web pages and for content that is made for children, but this is more likely because it just these web pages are trying to give like basic definition that is the most easiest to understand for the people who have no previous knowledge about these things. And that's why there is not like this quasi-experiment isn't mentioned, and the statistical definition is also not mentioned, because yeah, it would make it more complicated, and it would make it more likely that people, well, even more intelligent people than Sleeping Warrior might misunderstand what these things are saying. So yeah, I think I've made my case using Sleeping Warrior's own citation, and my case was just that it is demonstrably not true that you must manipulate independent variable in an experiment. Independent variable can be defined also in a way that it is defined in quasi-experiment, where you just form categories based on pre-existing traits, no manipulation, or it has this statistical definition with like no mention of these manipulations or actually the experiment at all. Yeah, I'm going to stop this video here, and if you watch this all the way through, please go and watch my other video that I'm going to publish at the same time, where I take a look at Sleeping Warrior reading this paper. And this is well, for me this is extremely funny, because I have a background in philosophy and I understand what this paper is saying. Sleeping Warrior doesn't. He absolutely and totally misunderstands that, and that is something that I'm going to go through in my next video. But yeah, and yeah, I also think that now Sleeping Warrior can't claim that I did not address his citations that I cherry picked. I specifically addressed 8 out of 10, and yeah, then just commented on shortly the last 2.